and welcome to Summerween. I was going to start off this video at home, but I had some errands to run this morning and I'm at Target right now. I'll tell you in just a second. But we're taking a quick snack break for little man before we go inside. So I figured I would just film an intro while I'm sitting here hanging out. For this week, I plan to read pretty much exclusively horror and thriller books. I have 5 books on my TBR, I think, for Summerween so far. But I'm in the mood for fall. I'm in the mood for Halloween. I'm in the mood for all of that stuff. And it's 90 degrees outside today. So I desperately need summer to be over. I have mixed emotions about it, actually, because summer being over means that my baby is going to be a 1-year-old and not a baby anymore. So for that reason, I don't want summer to end, but also I just don't like summer. I'm over it. I was over it on July 5th, actually. I was like, okay, it's fall now. We're done, please. But one of the books on my TBR I am already currently reading, and that is The God of the Woods by Liz Moore. I think I mentioned in my last video that I was planning to start it soon. And I was going back and forth on starting it before this video or reading it in the video, and I've ended up making it about halfway through the book. And I was going to finish it before I started this video. However, it's taking me longer to read than I originally thought it would, and the reason for that being Alice's point of view is sometimes difficult for me to read. I find myself having to take breaks, especially when she's talking about her experience postpartum and with motherhood and her husband and everything like that. It's just really heavy. And then also the thought of like my child going missing, like reading about that, I can't fathom it. And so I think I have found since becoming a mother, like reading things like that or watching things, sorry, my baby is moving the steering wheel, which you are sitting on, but reading things like that and watching things like that have become so much harder now that I'm a mother, because the only thing I can picture is me having to go through that with my son, and that puts me in a really dark place sometimes, especially with like everything that's going on in The God of the Woods. I still feel like I don't know a ton of the story. I still feel like I'm getting to know a lot of the characters. Are you done? We'll go inside in just a second. Because of all of the different characters, all of the different like points of view and all of the bouncing around different timelines, because you're kind of following 2 separate timelines where 2 separate children went missing. Because of all of that, even though I'm 200 pages into the book, it does feel like it's moving kind of slowly. And I just think I find reading about motherhood in like the 50s and 60s and 70s really, really difficult. I am currently at Target right now because I need to find some shoes. Goodness gracious. I'm at Target right now because I need to find a pair of shoes for my baby. He hasn't really worn shoes up at this point, other than like some cute little booties that he had when he was a baby, like a newborn. But he's starting to show signs of walking soon, and so I need to get him some shoes that he can walk in. Anyway, we are getting antsy, so we're gonna go inside. I just finished The God of the Woods, and this book was so good, let me tell you. I was absolutely hooked. I think my final rating for it is going to be 4.5 stars. It was just shy of 5 stars for me, because I feel like when I read a book, in order for it to be a 5-star experience, I want it to be a book that I have trouble putting down and that I think about when I'm not reading it. You know, a 5-star marker for me is that it's constantly on my mind, and while I'm reading it, I have trouble putting it down and I constantly want to go back to it. This book was not quite a 5-star for me for that reason, because I wasn't constantly wanting to go back to it, and there were times where I needed to take a break from it, and that's just simply because books that have any sort of talk about motherhood in them, and it's a book like this where the mother is struggling and she's not necessarily a good mom, are hard reads for me now that I have my own child. And so for that reason, I wasn't necessarily constantly wanting to go back to it or wanting to pick it up. I found that reading the mother's chapters, Alice's chapters, were difficult for me at certain times, and then the way the book ended was also just kind of heartbreaking. It was a very, very good book, and I really, really enjoyed it. I loved the way that it was written, and it kind of keeps you coming back. It did get a teensy bit annoying at some points when every single time something was getting good from somebody's perspective, it left you on a cliffhanger and went to somebody else. And I understand that the reason for that is to kind of keep you hooked in the book, but also at the same time, sometimes I just want you to answer my questions immediately. Sometimes I just want you to, oh no, this happens, and here's what follows immediately after, instead of constantly leaving you on a cliffhanger. And for that reason, it also is not a 5-star for me. But it was still a very, very good book, and I had a really good time reading it. This book kind of gave me Friday the 13th vibes almost, the way it's set in a summer camp and there's a disappearance with a little boy, and then later on with a young girl. Not exactly Friday the 13th vibes, because Friday the 13th is a slasher and this is a literary horror, but it kind of had the same undertone to it, the kind of same cozy feeling with like this book being in the 70s and it's at a summer camp and there's these disappearances that we're looking into, and there's a lot of question as to what's going on. But I really, really enjoyed this book. For the next book that I pick up, I'm kind of between two books at the moment. I'm still trying to decide which one I want to pick up. The first one that I'm kind of leaning towards is I Was a Teenage Slasher by Stephen Graham Jones. This book I've been really interested in for a while. First of all, I really like the cover. La Mesa, Texas, July 1989. It's the summer before senior year for best friends Tolly Driver and Amber Dennison. They're not in the marching band, they're not in the FFA, they don't really count. Amber's the only native student in town, and Tolly's only on the radar due to his father's recent death. This is all about to change. Bodies are going to be dropping fast in the small West Texas town for a few unbearably hot days that will resonate through the decades and even get made into a TV movie. Tolly and Amber will be famous, notorious even. Finally, everyone will know their names. This has been a book that's been high on my radar for a long time, for over a year, and I really want to finally pick it up. This book is about 365 pages long, and then the other one that I kind of want to pick up next, I have this vintage copy of Creature by John Saul. I have a handful of vintage books, and this one is kind of the one that caught my eye. The other one that I contemplated putting on my TBR, but ultimately didn't, is Christine by Stephen King. This is another one of my vintage copies. But so this one I think is kind of Teen Wolf-esque. I don't know a ton about it. The description on the back is pretty short. It says, a powerful high-tech company, a postcard pretty company town. Families, children, sunshine, happiness. A high school football team that never, ever loses. And something else, something horrible. Now there's a new family in town. A shy, nature-loving teenager, a new hometown, a new set of bullies. Maybe the team sports clinic can help him, rebuild him. Then they won't hurt him again. They won't dare. This one seemed kind of intriguing to me. Part of the reason it seemed intriguing was I couldn't figure out what the cover was for the longest time. It's somebody's face in like a football helmet. This one is about 380 pages, and so I'm kind of between the two of these. I'm gonna come to a decision sometime soon. Hopefully, I'm gonna get some housework done and think about it for a minute. I think between the two of these, I'm leaning more towards I Was a Teenage Slasher, so I will probably start this one next. After thinking about it a little bit more, I do think I'm going to read this one next. I think it just sounds more interesting, especially now that I read the summary. So I think this is the one I'm going to pick up next, but we will see. We're going to have to ignore my markers right now, but I have a work in progress that I'm doing. This is going to end up being a book sleeve. I'm gonna sit here and work on this for a little bit because my son is taking a nap right now, and I'm gonna watch The Vampire Diaries while I do it. So I thought I filmed this whole thing. Turns out my camera was facing the wrong direction. So I'm gonna make myself a little treat while we finish up this video. So I finished I Was a Teenage Slasher by Stephen Graham Jones. Yeah. I finished it up yesterday and I really enjoyed it. I rated it 4 stars. I really enjoyed that it was a twist on a traditional slasher story like Scream or I Know What You Did Last Summer or Friday the 13th, things like that. And instead of following the protagonist of the story, we're following the antagonist of the story. It's kind of his written account of what happened in the summer of 1989 in La Mesa, Texas. And so I thought it was really, really interesting. And Stephen Graham Jones does gore so well. The horror aspect and the shock factor of those slasher scenes outside of the rest of the story are written so well. It's kind of gross, but it's really good. Anyway, so I really enjoyed the book. That's going to be my last book of this video. I'm going to end it. I'm going to start trying to post shorter videos weekly and just do a couple of books at a time, because also my last video I read 6 books. That's too many books for one video. Anyway, so that's gonna be the end of this video as far as books go. I did start another book today just because I'm trying really hard to read every single day this year. That was one of my New Year's resolutions, and so far I have not broken that streak. Continuing my streak from last year into this year, I am almost at 300 days reading in a row. So that's pretty cool. I'm pretty proud of myself for that one. But I did pick up, I have an ARC ebook thanks to NetGalley. Thank you, NetGalley, for allowing me to get an early copy of this. I am reading The House Guest by Jennifer Pashley right now. The premise of that book, if I remember just off the top of my head, I read it a while back and then I just picked it up today without reading it again. But this girl gets a job as a private chef for this husband and wife, and then things go down. She kind of gets caught in between the husband and wife, and it's a horror thriller, something. Mystery thriller, I think. Anyway, I am going to show you my snack. I had a great idea the other day and my favorite ice cream was on sale, so I have cherry chocolate chunk ice cream. I have a malt glass because everything tastes better if it's in a cuter dish, okay? If you've got a cuter plate, your meal tastes better. If you've got a cuter cup, your dessert tastes better. I've got my little bit of ice cream and then a Diet Dr. Pepper. But there's my Diet Dr. Pepper float with cherry ice cream. And then I found these at the store the other day. I love these things. I am not going to bake these. The cookie dough is completely safe to eat. I prefer the cookie dough, honestly, so I'm gonna have a couple little cookies too with it. And that's my treat for the night because why not? Anyways, that is it for this video. I hope you enjoyed reading with me this week, and if you did enjoy it, like, comment, or subscribe. And thank you for watching. I will see you in the next one. This is much better than a root beer float.